On June 18, 2023, the OceanGate Titan submersible began its descent toward the wreck of the Titanic, nearly 4,000 meters beneath the surface of the North Atlantic. Traveling at just 1 knot, the 2.5-hour journey was filled with tension, anticipation, and uncertainty. Communication with its support ship, the Polar Prince, was maintained through brief pings every 5 to 10 seconds, each confirming that Titan was still operational. At 10:14 a.m. the Polar Prince asked Titan if it could be seen on the sub's display. The response was short, K, and later, yes. But at 10:47 a.m., the tone changed. Titan reported it was dropping 2 weights, a possible indication of an emergency ascent. Just 6 seconds later, a mere 475 meters from the Titanic, Titan sent its final ping. The support crew on the Polar Prince repeatedly called out for updates. No reply ever came. Sometime shortly after 10:47 the Titan submersible catastrophically imploded, instantly killing all 5 people on board. What started as a daring dive to one of the most iconic shipwrecks in history quickly turned into a chilling mystery, and eventually, a global tragedy. As hours passed and hope faded, the world watched anxiously. A full-scale international search and rescue effort was launched. Strange banging sounds were detected in the North Atlantic, offering a glimmer of hope. But the truth would prove far more devastating. The Titan's implosion was more than just the tragic loss of 5 lives. It marked the beginning of serious questions, investigations, and far-reaching consequences. The making of a tragedy. To understand what went wrong, we must look back. This wasn't a sudden, unpredictable accident. It was a disaster years in the making. OceanGate was founded in 2009 by Stockton Rush and Guillermo Schanlein, with the ambitious goal of revolutionizing deep-sea exploration by developing a fleet of submersibles for private missions. They acquired a steel-hulled sub called Antipodes, capable of reaching 300 meters. By 2010, OceanGate was already offering underwater dives off California, charging $40,000 per person. To sidestep legal restrictions around uncertified tourist diving, they called their guests citizen scientists. Years later, OceanGate began developing its own submersibles. The first, Cyclops 1, was built using a steel hull repurposed from a vessel named Lola. Unveiled in 2015, the 5-person sub was equipped with an acrylic viewport, battery-powered systems for up to 8 hours, and was operated using a modified wireless game controller. One notable dive took place in 2016, when the Cyclops 1, piloted by Rush, crashed into the wreck of the Andrea Doria, despite warnings from his crew to keep a safe distance. But Cyclops 1 was just the beginning. Enter Titan. In 2016, Rush set out to build a sub that could dive to the Titanic. OceanGate partnered with Spencer Composites to create a carbon fiber pressure hull, bonded to titanium end caps, a design that broke with industry norms. Layers of carbon fiber and epoxy resin were heat-cured over 7 days to produce a hull that, in theory, could withstand the crushing pressures of 4,000 meters. Rush believed this design was superior to traditional titanium spheres, claiming carbon fiber offered a better strength-to-buoyancy ratio. The submersible was eventually renamed Titan. Inside, Titan was extremely minimal. With a diameter of just 1.3 meters, passengers sat cross-legged on the floor. A small screen showed sonar data, while a second interface displayed controls. A single toilet, placed behind a viewport, doubled as a scenic restroom. 4 oxygen tanks beneath the floor could supply breathable air for 96 hours. Steering was handled by a Logitech F710 game controller. The vessel's front dome was bolted shut from the outside, meaning passengers couldn't escape without external help. To manage buoyancy, weights and steel pipes were dropped and released from the skids. Despite warnings from deep-sea experts, Rush tested Titan near its maximum depth. On one 2019 test dive, expert Carl Stanley accompanied him and reported hearing disturbing cracking noises from the hull. He later warned Rush that the vessel might be structurally compromised, advice Rush chose to ignore. Growing warnings ignored. Between 2021 and 2022, Titan made 23 trips to the Titanic wreck, but only 13 were successful. On one trip, a thruster was installed backward, causing the vessel to spin uncontrollably when trying to move forward. OceanGate continued to take paying clients on these missions, labeling them mission specialists rather than passengers, a semantic strategy used to circumvent U.S. safety regulations for experimental craft. Most deep-sea submersibles use titanium spheres because they distribute pressure evenly. In contrast, Titan's cylindrical carbon fiber design introduced stress concentrations and the risk of fatigue cracking over repeated dives. Even internally, concerns grew. David Lockridge, OceanGate's director of marine operations, filed a report citing major safety flaws, including delamination of the hull's carbon layers and a refusal to engage third-party certification. He was fired and then sued. In 2021, OceanGate rebuilt Titan's hull, but controversially reused old components. Even after failed scale model tests, questionable modifications were made against expert advice. Further internal repairs in 2023 included relaminating carbon fiber layers and rebonding titanium interfaces, all done without external certification. The final dive. On June 18, 2023, Titan began its fateful descent. Around 1 hour and 45 minutes in, it suffered a catastrophic implosion. Among the victims were CEO Stockton Rush, French explorer Paul-Henri Nargeolet, British billionaire Hamish Harding, and Pakistani businessman Shahzada Dawood with his 19-year-old son, Sulman. For days, a desperate search continued under the assumption that the sub was stranded with limited air. But behind the scenes, the U.S. Navy had already detected an acoustic signature of an implosion, information that wasn't shared with the public until much later. When Titan's wreckage was found just 500 meters from the Titanic on June 22, 2023, the search officially became a recovery effort. Aftermath and fallout. Multiple investigations were launched. The U.S. Coast Guard began a formal inquiry. Experts zeroed in on Titan's unorthodox design and OceanGate's resistance to industry standards. Families of the victims filed lawsuits, including a $50 million wrongful death claim. Despite this, a liability waiver signed by passengers, which mentioned death 9 times, shielded OceanGate from many legal consequences. The company quietly shut down. Its website disappeared. Future missions were canceled. Its social media accounts went private. It issued no formal press conference and offered no follow-up explanation beyond confirming the deaths on June 22. Plans for more advanced submersibles, including Cyclops 3 and 4, were scrapped. In 2024, OceanGate co-founder Guillermo Schonlein, who had left years earlier, testified before the Coast Guard. He expressed condolences and urged continued investment in deep-sea research. OceanGate appointed Gordon Gardner to oversee shutdown operations and cooperate with investigators. Since then, no updates have been issued. Meanwhile, famed director and explorer James Cameron criticized the response efforts and noted that many experts knew early on that the passengers were already lost. Drawing eerie parallels to the original Titanic disaster, he warned that once again, expert warnings had gone unheeded. Legacy. While the Titan tragedy ended OceanGate's ambitions, it hasn't stopped others. In 2024, Triton Submarines, backed by billionaire Larry Connor, announced a certified Titanic expedition, promising it would be conducted safely, by the book. Whether future Titanic dives will happen remains uncertain. But one thing is clear, OceanGate will not be a part of them. In trying to bring people closer to history, the company became history itself.